This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so before starting today, so any questions, anyone? Okay. So yesterday just we started, so what exactly at high level we discussed as part of the Salesforce development. So again, I'm repeating, it's recommended to have the Salesforce admin basics. So that way you can understand 100% whatever I'm going to explain. Okay, so at high level, we have 3 layers. So we say MVC architecture, model, view, controller. So view means what we see on the web page. So this is view. Whatever, when you log into Salesforce, whatever we see. So that one. So when you interact with the application, right? Let's say this is the application. So when you click somewhere, right? So in the background, it executes some logic, the business logic. So that we call as controller. And ultimately, right, let's say I'm filling this form and click on save. This information will be saved into the Salesforce database, right? That layer we call as model. Okay, so the architecture, right? Salesforce architecture is MVC, model, view, controller. So we deal with all these things. Okay, we also deal with the integration. So yesterday, right, if there is a need to look into the other platform applications database, either you want to read the data or if you want to save some data. So that time we go with the integration. These are the concepts at high level we discuss, and also at the end we discuss about the deployment. And to start with, so the key concept what we need to know is about the Apex programming language. So at present we are understanding Apex programming language. Right? The first thing, the Apex language is case insensitive, meaning even though there is a, if you see this example, it treat all these things as same. Okay, maybe when we start writing the program, you will understand in a more better way. And also yesterday we discussed, we compared the program with the English language, right? One paragraph is like one program, right? So instead of sentence in the programming languages, we call as statement, right? So sentence will be formed with multiple words. Here in the programming, each and every word we call as a token, right? Technically, we call as a token. By combining multiple tokens, by following the syntax, right? In English language, we follow grammar. Here we follow the syntax. We can form the statement. Because there are different types of statements. So once we understand these different types of statements, so then if I write a program, so you will understand in a better way. That's why, so we listed different types of statements which we deal on day to day when we deal with the programming. So memory statements and all these are the different types of statements. So at present we are understanding about the memory statement. Yeah, the purpose of the memory statement is when the program is started executing, right at the time of executing the program. So whatever the data it is dealing, right? So to hold that data, it needs some memory to allocate temporarily, right? So once the program execution is done, again it releases that it won't use anything, right? Temporarily to hold the data at the time of running the program. So it needs memory. Instead of allocating same amount of memory for all the different types of data, each programming language, right, based on the programming language. So they provide data types. Here we listed the data types available in the Apex programming language. Maybe in some other programming languages, Java, .NET. So these data types might be different, right? So we need to follow the specific programming language rules. So here we are dealing with Apex and we need to follow these Apex programming language, whatever the rules, the syntax as per the documentation. Okay, so these are the available data types when we deal with the Apex programming language. So yesterday already we discussed each type and so which type of data each type it hold and all those kind of things, right? So again, I don't want to again repeat. High level, I'm just explaining. So and finally, we started writing a statement. Right? So all we want to add two numbers, right? So the program is nothing but a plan, right? It's like a plan, right? So two numbers, if you provide, it should add both and give the result, right? So that we need to plan in the program, right? So first, the two numbers, how, right, when the program started executing, how it will remember those two numbers, whatever we provide. It needs some memory temporarily, right? So here we have one data type integer, right? Integer space. And when you store some value, to refer that, right, we need some name. So otherwise, again and again, if you want to look into the value present in that memory, so we need some identification, right? So that's why, so we give some name for the memory, what we are allocating. We are allocating two memory locations, number 1, comma, number 2, right? And statement ends with semicolon. Maybe in English language, full stop. Here it is semicolon, right? So we are also assigning some default value. If you don't want, you can leave it. So if you don't assign anything in the memory, whatever it allocates, it maintain null. Right? Null means nothing is there. In the programming perspective, when the memory is allocated and if you don't store anything, it hold null. Null means nothing is there. That's the meaning. Okay, if you want to initialize with some values, so we give like this, right? So I'm just giving these two numbers so that it initialize those two variables with these numbers. Okay, so that's what we're doing. But so how to do the calculation and store the result? So for that, we need to know this arithmetic. And for now, maybe quickly I'm adding. So we have to say number 1 plus number 2. But this result where we need again some memory to hold this result, right? So what we can do, you can define a variable result, right? So by default, I'm not assigning any value. So later, right, as per our plan, the program is nothing but a plan. So after the first statement, in the second statement, to that we are adding number 1 plus number 2 and assigning, right? So that way 100 plus 200, it will assign into this result, that memory. So like that. So just I'm showing the syntax, right? This is the first type of statement we are understanding, and this is how it works. So maybe unless we execute and see the result, so right, we don't get more confidence. Okay, so let me show you in Salesforce where exactly, I mean, to start with, right, where we quickly execute and see the result. Slowly, once we understand the basics, exactly how we create the program, from where that will be called, all those are little later, after a few weeks, right? Maybe after a week you will be knowing. Until that time, so since we want to quickly start and see how this code is working, so there are some places as a developer we need to know. I'm going to show that. Okay, so for that, first we should have the developer edition account. So already, right, if you have a developer edition account, maybe most of you attended admin, right? So already if you have the developer Salesforce account, use the same account. Again, specially no need to create a separate one. In the same developer edition account, you can log in and practice whatever I'm going to explain. Okay, so some of you, so if you are new and if you don't have the Salesforce account, it is free. All you need to do, go to this website, developer.salesforce.com. So, and once you go there, just click on this browse trials. Okay, so scroll down and you see Salesforce Developer Edition. Sign up for Salesforce Developer Edition. Okay, so just fill this form, give the proper valid email address, and can select anything here, country and anything you can choose. Username can be something@something.com. Right? Technically, your name @yourcompany.com. You can give any name, right? So it's up to you, and you can click on sign up. You will get email, and you can set the password and log in, right? So once you log into Salesforce, right, on day-to-day to log in, we need to go to login.salesforce.com. So enter your username, password. Once you log in, you see like this, right? Once you log into the Salesforce, okay, so for now, right, so to execute the code quickly, so we have a web-based IDE. IDE means integrated development environment, right? For development, whatever we need, everything using the tool we can do. Okay, so without installing anything, so once you log in, so you see one option called developer console. So in general, if you click on this, it opens in a new window. So I don't want to open in a new window. I want to open this in a new tab in the Chrome browser. So what you can do, you can click on this. So if you are using Windows, you can hold Alt and click on this. If you are using Mac, so you can hold Command and click on this, so that instead of opening in a new window, it opens within a tab in the same browser. Okay, so just so understand that. So I think for the sake of some testing, I created something. Just moving. So now once you open this one, okay, so to execute the code, you need to click on this debug. Okay, so all you need to do, open developer console, click on debug, click on open execute anonymous window. Yeah.
Can you show once again the opening in the new tab, developer console?
So all you need to do, click on this gear icon. You see developer console, right? You need to click on that. You need to click on that. So in general, if you click on that, it opens in a new window, right? New tab, I mean new window. So if you want to open within the same browser as a tab, you need to hold Alt and click on this. Okay, so that this is opened here.
Okay.
Okay, so now to execute the code, you need to click on this debug, the first option, open execute anonymous window. So here quickly we can, right, so type the logic and see how it is working. right? If you see here, whatever here I'm typing, I can type here, right? I can also check the syntax, right? Whether it is correct or not, as per, right? Like English, the grammar is correct or not. Here, for programming, whatever statement we write it, the syntax should be correct. Yeah, otherwise it will throw compile error, right? The code won't execute successfully. So now let's say integer, the simple example, and that is data type and number 1, right? I can also say integer number 2, but if you are defining multiple memory locations for same type, you can say comma and some other, right? So we are allocating 2 memory locations of integer type. Okay, now quickly, as a developer, right? I'm saying we allocated 2 memory locations. I want to see what is that value, right? In that memory, what is the value present, right? By default, since you did not assign anything, by default, it will hold null. So let's check really what exactly it is doing. So as a developer, if you want to see what is the value present in the memory, whatever we allocated. Okay, so we use system.debug. Okay, for now, just remember this syntax. So what is that system? What is the debug? We'll slowly understand after some of the concepts. Okay, so just for printing, so we use system.debug, and here you can type something, whatever, right? It's like if you use single quotes, it's like you are keeping some text, right? So here I want to print this number 1, right? In the same way, I want to print number 2 also, and I'm giving. Right now, all we need to do execute. If there is some problem with the syntax, right? Intentionally, I'm not ending this statement with semicolon, right? So that means this, right? The code syntax is not correct. That means system cannot execute this code successfully, right? If you see it is saying error, this we say compilation error, syntax problem, right? So the thing is, I'm missing this. Each and every statement should end with semicolon. And now I'm executing, right? So, and also if you see, there is a checkbox, open log. In general, whenever we execute the code, system generate a log. So as a developer, we can look into that log and understand each and every statement, how it executed, and in detail, we can see what happened. Okay, so in general, so when you execute, if you see here, we have logs, one of the tab. Here you see those logs. We need to open. But after executing these lines, immediately if you want to open, you can check this checkbox. If you don't check this, you need to go here and double click and open. I'm opening immediately, right? So I'm just clicking on execute. Execute. In this window, whatever you type, everything will be executed. So we have execute highlighted, means you can highlight few lines and click on this so that it execute only the highlighted lines, right? So just understand, that's the difference. Now click on execute. It's executed, right? And if you see in this log, so all these are the things. Okay, so but when we start newly looking into each and everything and understanding that if you see some bytes of memory, it is allocating. As a developer, since we are starting newly, understanding all these things is little difficult, right? So quickly, whatever we are printing using system.debug, I want to only see that so that we'll have more clarity on so what we are expecting to print in the log. Okay, so for that, what you need to do, so there is a checkbox called debug only. Okay, so when you click on this one, so what we printed using system.debug, only those things it show. Yeah, so if you see here, by default, it is holding null. Null means nothing is there, right? So like that. So this is how, this is a place where we execute and see the results. Okay, so maybe now if I assign like this, right? So now
In the brackets in the log, so it is showing before debug there is something numbers, right? So that is the representation of the line number
which one?
here.
Yeah,
2 and 3 it is showing, right?
yeah, those are lines.
Okay.
Okay. So now I am assigning some default value, right? So now when you execute, right, when you see in this memory location, we assign 100, right? It will print 100. Here it will print 800, right? So execute, and it opens the, it generate one more log and it open. Click on debug only, and if I see it is holding 100, 800, so like that, right? So like that we can type and see how it works. Okay, so now I want to focus more on these memory statements, right? We have different other categories. So let's say I want to store the one of the person first name, last name, and email address, right? So to hold that, right, which type is suitable? So anyone, just
String.
string, right? First name, last name, or email. So all those are the text. So for that we use string, right? Can say string to hold the first name, to hold the last name, and to hold email, I am saying email. So like that, right? As a default, if you want to assign something, we can assign. So if you don't want to assign, don't assign, right? So now let me print that first name, right? I'm just printing that first name and see. So it executed, that means syntax is correct. And if you see, that is holding null because we did not assign anything. So now here in the process of defining these memory statements to hold some different types of data. So the thing is, we have to follow some programming standards, right? So the thing is, here if you don't follow the standards, right? So simply if I say A, B, C, something like that, right? So it will work if I execute, gives the result, everything is perfect. But the thing is, so A means what we are exactly going to store. Is it like some number or so we don't know what? So there is no clarity. So the thing is, when we work for a project, when you are doing the programming, so we should not give these memory names as ABC, XYZ like that. So whatever we give should be meaningful, right? So if I say first name, right, by reading that, people can easily understand. Okay, I think something like some name, the first part of the name, I think we can store in that. Last name, we have the clarity, right? It's always we have to give the meaningful names. So when we define the memory statements, So whatever the name we give for the memory. Okay, so just understand. So if you don't follow that, the program will execute and you see the results. If someone see your code, then they'll say some inexperienced person developed the code, right? So I mean the rules, right? The rules, whatever we follow, even though there is no syntax problem, as a developer with some experience, whatever other developers follow, those standards we need to follow. So that we call as indentation. Indentation means the programming standards. If you don't follow also, the code will execute, but people feel bad when you see your code if you don't follow some rules properly. Okay, so just to try to follow what we are discussing here, try to give the proper meaningful names. So don't go with ABC, XYZ, right? And also if you see, so I told Apex is case insensitive, right? So technically if I say string, right? So previously I gave capital S. Now I'm giving everything small, right? Still it will work, right? Still if you execute, there is no error, it will work because Apex is case insensitive. But still, right? So in general, whenever we define any data type, so we start with capital letter and remaining small letters. If you also follow that, it is good. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to explain. In the same way, the variable names, right? So I'm just giving first name, right? So if I give something like this also, it will work, right? So if I give something like this also, it will work, right? So, but the thing is, all developers follow the standards. I think someone is not in mute. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I think we are getting some disturbance, right? I mean, if you don't have any questions, you can find the mute button. You can click on that so that, so otherwise I'll mute from my side. You can unmute later. Okay. Yeah. So now what I'm trying to explain. So here, whenever we define the right, so name for the memory. So we need to, in general, we follow the camel case. And camel case means starts with the small letter, and if there are multiple words in that, right? So from second word onwards, we follow the capital letter, right? First, that is the first word, everything small. The second word is name. So I'm making N as capital. Right? That standard we follow. If you don't follow also, it will work, but it's better to follow so that your code will be clean. Yes, so just understand. So now we need to know a few things technically. So yesterday I told, right? So each and every word you are seeing. Yeah.
What about the gaps between number equals to 100? Is that mandatory or to just feel good?
Yeah, that is not mandatory. So that also, right? So if you give like this, so a little bit, so reading is little bit difficult, right? So that's why I gave the space, but that is not required as per the syntax, right? So if you see, if you execute, still it will work. Okay. Few things are not required. Even if you want, you can keep all the statements in the same line. Still it will work. Okay. So few things for us to easily understand, right? So we follow, right? It's, if you keep in separate lines. It's easy to read, right? It's all right. So how you present your code so that if someone see that, they can easily understand and feel good. Okay, so we need to follow that. Okay, so maybe we write like that. Exactly, we also try to follow that. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. So now here, whatever we have here, right? Each and everything is like one word, right? This is one word, this is one word, this is one word. So in programming terminology, we call as token, right? Now here, each and everything what you see here is a token. Okay, in Salesforce, I mean, in any programming language, we call as token. That is a generic term. So like in English, the word can be noun, pronoun, verb, different types. Here the token can be a keyword or identifier, right, or literal. So we have different categories. Okay, so now let me list out those. So when you have the code here, so here all these are technically the tokens. So out of this integer you are seeing here, integer, string, so those are the tokens, but those are provided by the programming library, right? The Apex, as part of the Apex programming, those are reserved. Those tokens are provided by the Apex programming language. So when you say integer, the meaning is system understand that we are allocating the memory to hold the number type. That we cannot change that meaning. So I cannot make that to store some data or some boolean value or text value. So we cannot change the meaning of that. That is reserved by Apex programming language to hold the rounded numbers. In the same way, string, it only hold the text value. We have to provide that within the single quote. Okay, so the tokens which are provided by Salesforce in the sense the Apex, the programming language. So we call those as keywords. Okay, keyword is something which we cannot, it's not in our control, right? So it's provided by the system. System means whoever is offering that, right? So in our case, maybe Apex Salesforce company, right? So integer, string, right, in the above statements. And also when you print, right, if there is nothing, it is showing as null, right? Null is a keyword, right? Meaning, null meaning is nothing is there, right? That is reserved by Salesforce. Okay, so null means nothing. So these are the keywords. Okay, so in the above statements, so if you see here, we have num1, num2, first name, last name. So who decided this? As a developer, we can decide. Yeah, if I want, I can give like this, number 1, right? So it's up to the developer. As a developer, we decide what is the name you want to give, right? So here we are giving num1. You are using this after integer, that means it will hold that integer value, right? Same thing if you use after this string, it hold only the string, right? We decide. So where to use, what is the name we want to give for our identification purpose, right? Since we need to identify that memory location to refer again and again, so we are giving some name. right? So these things we call as identifiers, right? So maybe everything is a token, right? So, but there are different types of tokens. So we have keywords. So we have identifiers. Identifiers as a developer. So we decide, and it's in our control, which context we use. Based on that, the meaning will be different, right? In the above statements, number 1, number 2, first name, last name, right? So all those are the identifiers. Okay. So, but on day to day, so when you say identifier, mostly people don't understand. It's like a textbook kind of terminology, right? So, but so these things here, whatever first name, number 1, whatever is there, instead of identifiers, so we can, right? So maybe internally, right, different terminology. So identifier, so we also call that as data member. Again, this is also textbook terminology, right? So this data member to hold the data, this first name, all those are data members, right? But instead of this terminology on day to day, you hear about the variable, right? When you say variable, everyone understand. That's the day to day terminology which we use to refer that the memory name what we give. Either you say identifier, data member, or variable, everything is same. So, but we use variable is the terminology on day to day people use. Okay, going forward, I'll say variable. So variable, if I say variable, you need to understand that's the name given to a memory when you define a memory location for a specific type. To identify that memory location, we give some name that we call as variable. Going forward, I will say variable. Okay, I'll again never say that it's a memory location, all those kind of things. Okay, so we say data type space and give the variable name. Right? So here number 1 is variable, number 2 is variable, first name is variable. Right? So just to fix that in your mind, going forward we say as variable. Okay, so this is important, this terminology. Okay, and also we have this equal to, right? So what is that equal to? Maybe we might have plus, minus, different operators also going forward. I mean, those we call as operators. And we have one category called operators. Operators are like equal, plus, minus. For multiplication, we use star, right? Maybe slash is for division. So all these are the operators, right? So just understand that. Okay, the next category is literals. Okay, literals are numbers, right? It's like numbers in the above logic, 100, 800, those are the numbers. We also have strings, right? String values. I think we did not assign anything. Right here, I'm assigning something like this, right? So that is a string. Okay, those always you see strings inside the single quote. Well, these are the different types of tokens. So when we see the program statements, okay, so these are different things, right? Sometimes people say keyword, right? So you need to understand integer, string, these are keywords. People say operator. Operator means this equal to for assignment plus for multiplication. Sorry, for division, sorry, for addition. So star for multiplication, like that. Okay. So we'll see all these things as part of this, we'll see. So just that's the terminology. Okay. So far, any questions on understanding this? The terminology, right? Slowly we are understanding. So the statement, how we write the statement, everything is a token. Which one we call as keyword, which one we call as variable, all those kind of things. Yeah. Any questions so far?
Quick question, Srinu. For the line 53 and 54, right? So can we write it in one line like system.debug number 1 comma number 2?
Maybe you cannot use comma. Okay, so number 2, right? So it, because it's internally like it's a method. Okay, so slowly we have a concept called oops concepts. That time I'll explain. So what you can do, you can. So all you want to print both together, right? So what we need to do, I'm just giving plus. If you give plus, what will happen? It will add those two and print it in the result, right? So if I execute in the result, you will see 900, right? So but you want to print both, right? 800 and 100 separately. So that time what we do? So we need the concatenation, not the addition. So we combine with this like this. That is like a space, right? So number 1 is 100 plus. I'm concatenating with this space, that string. That finally I'm concatenating with the number 2. Now it print 100 space 800. Okay. So these things, I mean, slowly we'll understand. That's why we have the next set of statements, arithmetic operators and all those things. Now if you see 100, 800, you are seeing. So it's like that. Okay.
Srinu,
Yeah.
you said Apex is case insensitive, right? So for keywords and for all this, we are using certain mandatory rules. So how come it is case insensitive?
That is not mandatory. If you don't follow, right, people think that you are a bad developer, right? So it's not mandatory. Integer, you just define like this, right? Your code will work, you save it, right? If someone is not going to review your code, right? So until that time, everything is okay. Someone, right, if your manager asks to look into your code by some other developer, that time they say the code is not well formatted, like that. Okay, I mean, what I'm trying to say, these are not mandatory, right?
Okay.
But if you don't follow, people think that you are a bad developer. So since we don't want like that, we have to follow.
So
It's like
for
that.
keywords, it should be capital for the first letter, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
most of the people, the standard is for all the data types, we start with capital letter and remaining small letters. So that's the standard people follow. If you follow that, it is good. Okay. In the same way, right, the variables, right? So we call that as indentation. Indentation means the programming standards. Even though you don't follow, it's fine, but you have to follow so that your code will be good. Okay, so when we deal with a variable, right? When you define a variable, so what is the standard we need to follow? We say camel case, right? Camel case means small and each and every word is a capital, right? there are many words, right? My first name, I'm starting with a small letter. From second word onwards, each and every first character is capital. So if you follow that, it's good. That's the standard for a variable, right? So when you define the data type, right? So it's like, right? So it should start with the capital letter, right? So start with capital and remaining small. Okay, so it's like integer, string, like that. Okay, going forward, we have many other types. So when that time comes, that time we discuss more on that formats. Okay, so still there are many things for indentation we follow. So still we are in very early stage. I will keep on add here. Okay, that's about that part. So now my question is, so are you following so far? Are you able to understand this terminology? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Srini.
Yeah. So the next thing what I want to explain, is it okay to give any name for a variable? Here I am giving as number 1, right? Just to make it easy, just I'm removing everything, right? So here I'm giving number 1, right? If I only give 1, is it acceptable?
Is
No.
acceptable, but that is not a indentation.
The thing is, this is not as per indentation. These rules we have to follow for sure. Okay. The thing is, the variable name you cannot give as a number. Okay. Now whatever I am explaining, so I'll say not mandatory, right? So, but there are many things mandatory. Variable names. These are mandatory. If you don't follow, it will throw error, right? The rule is variable can have number, but it should not start with number, right? So just a valid number, right? It's having some number also. It's good. Those are valid. Invalid. Only 1, 2, if you give, that is not valid, right? Maybe you will say like this. All these are not valid. It will throw error. Okay. So the thing is, the rule is this is must. If you don't follow, it will throw error. Your program won't save. Your code won't save into the right. So application. Just to understand. And in the same way, so variable you should not use special characters except underscore, right? Variable should not have special characters except underscore. But the thing is, it should not start with underscore. Okay, valid, right? You can say num underscore 1, num underscore 2. These are valid, right? But you cannot give something like this, underscore num 1 or something. This is not acceptable. It will throw error. Okay, you can check here, right? So now if I give underscore, it will throw error, right? It should have something. It is valid now, right? So it's like that. Okay, so the next thing, variables should not have the space. You cannot say like this, right? So variable should not have space. And one more point, variable name should not be the keyword, right? So meaning integer null, I'm giving something like this, right? Null is a keyword. Null means nothing is there. I cannot use that as a variable name. It will throw error. Okay, you can maybe mix with something. So now that is acceptable, right? So maybe null, maybe integer. So here I'll say boolean. Right? Boolean is a keyword. It will throw error, right? Saying reserved. Identifier name is reserved. Okay, so just to understand. So these are the rules for sure we have to follow while giving the name for the variable. Okay, that's about this basics in the memory statement. So any questions? So now, so far whatever we discussed, right? So these data types, so we call as primitive data types. Okay, so primitive data types means whatever the memory it allocates directly into that memory, whatever the value we supply, that will go and sit into that memory, right? So that's the primitive data type, right? It's like you have a box, you need to keep some item, directly the item you keep there and store, right? So it's like that. That is primitive data type. But there is one more category, right? So non-primitive data type. So that category, how that will work. So let's say you have a small box. You don't keep that content directly. Let's say you have some paper where that item is there, right? So it's having a location, the address where that item is there, but not the real item you see in that box, right? It's like that. So we have the non-primitive data type. I'll show you how that will work. So far, whatever we discussed, everything is primitive data type. The meaning is whatever the memory it allocates directly into that memory, the data whatever we assign will go and sit into that. So that's the primitive. So non-primitive is it hold the reference. Reference means the location of the data. The real data will be somewhere else. It only store the location of that data. So that those we call as non-primitive data types. Okay, this part if you don't understand for now, it's fine. At least 50% if you understand it is okay. Slowly we'll understand. Okay, since I need to list out these types I'm explaining here. Okay, so non-primitive data types. So if you see, maybe if you did not attend the admin training, so maybe here you get some confusion. Okay, so in Salesforce we have the objects, right? Standard object, custom object. Those are nothing but the database tables, right? So in the custom object or standard object, right? So what we store, let's say here I'm opening one of the standard object account. So when you click on this account tab, you see a table. This is the data, right? So custom object also same thing. You see that is also a table where you see the data. So here each and everything is a row, right? So the thing is, we can define one of the object row, right, as a variable. So let's say I want to hold one of the row, this row, right? Technically, this row will be there in the database table of account, but it is having many columns, right? Account name, account site. There can be 20, 30 different columns. Maybe each column might be at different types, right? So one column, this is text, this is form. Something else might be a checkbox. Okay, so we cannot directly store all this content into one variable. So what will happen? This data is already in the database table. So by defining a variable, we store the location of this row in the database, right? So those we call as non-primitive data types. The standard objects or the custom objects we can treat as non-primitive types. Example, account, right? So account is the type of the table. Which type of table? Account. So what is the name you want to give? Let's say I'm giving SCC. Right? So this is the data type is account. The name, whatever we are giving is SCC. It can be any name, whatever you feel. So now, so what we can assign? You cannot assign, there might be 10 columns or 20 columns, each column of different type. You cannot directly assign the content here. Okay, so what we do here, we just create a reference. So the reference will be created with an operator called new. Right, for all these non-primitive types, you see, so we allocate like this, right? So when you give like this, the meaning is it allocate memory to hold one row of data into that table, whatever we are referring, right? So inside this, I'll show you going forward. Now, not now, going forward. So each and every column value we populate inside this. So that syntax. So it is too early to explain that. We'll see somewhere later, right? So now, so this is a reference. Okay, this whatever values we populate will be somewhere else, but this will hold the location of that row where it is there in the table. Those we call as non-primitive types. Okay, so for now, just understand this is something special, not like primitive type. Okay, so we also write Apex class. Right, Apex program is like one Apex class. That also we can define as a data type. Okay, so still we did not create any class. So we need to wait until that topic. Okay, so just I'm listing. So these are the non-primitive data types. Okay, and also one thing called as a subject. The purpose of this as subject is, so here we are mentioning, right, account SCC means only account table row it can accept, right? Only the location of that account table it can hold. But in some situations we don't know. We are dealing with the account or contact or one of the custom object. If you want to represent the table in a generic way, so that time we go with the S object, right? So generic object type, right? So this is only for standard or custom object, right? So we have object data type. That is like full generic. Any type of data you can hold. But this S object is only for either the standard object or custom object table to hold that row. That we use this one, not other things. Let's say I want to assign this apex class that into this. No, it's not possible. Okay, so just get to know this. So we'll say this call by reference, right? So it hold only the reference, the location of the actual data. Data will be somewhere else. All these non-primitive types holds the location where that is there. But so all these primitive types, right? These are call by value, means whatever memory it allocates directly into that, whatever value we assign will go and sit. So that's the call by value. So this terminology is, if you know it, is good. Okay, that's about this memory statements. So we are done with this first type of statement. So any questions before starting the next one, next type? So far understanding, any confusion?
Can you explain call by reference once again?
So call by reference is the location of the actual data where it is present, right? So when it assigns, when you refer this, right, here you don't see that real content. So what it hold, where that data is present in the memory, that memory location address it holds, right? So that is a call by reference. Call by value means, so when I say num1 is equal to 100, directly this 100 value will go and save into that memory, right? The actual data stores into that. But non-primitive, whatever variable, right, you can only assign the reference. Reference means the location, the memory location address where that content is there, that it will hold. Okay, so did you understand?
Yes, Srini.
Yes, Srini.
Okay,
Can we have an example on blob?
blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is too early, right? So too early. So if you want to, it's like a file format of value have to store blob. So my file or something like this I'm giving. So blob means you cannot give some text or something, right? So technically, so image or document or those things you should have in the database, and when you read that file through code, it makes sense to assign and deal. Okay, but for testing sake, if you want to assign and see, you cannot something like that you cannot assign. So we have one thing called blob dot value of, so that whatever content I am giving here, it will convert that content into a file, right? So that file it will assign here. So like that, right? So now same thing you can print it, right? This becomes like little bit confusing because we are in early stage. People confuse what is that blob, what is that value of. Okay? These things it's better to understand little later. Okay, so now
Okay,
I'm
sir.
just printing. Right, so saying just a blob 4, right? I think it is having 4 characters. This is like something complex. Really, when you deal with that file, that time makes sense to really see how it works. So with the progress, obviously we'll see those kind of things. Okay.
It's like external file or the internal file.
Anything, it's not a matter, right? The file is in the Salesforce database or external database. So all it can do, that file, it convert into the binary, right? Internally, there is some algorithm where it convert that into binary format and store. Okay.
Okay.
Srini, for suppose
Yeah.
my file name is an .pdf, means extension also is there. Hello.
Yeah. Yes.
How can I provide the value instant of the value? Can you go back to that one?
Okay.
Yeah, here in between the single code, can I give the 333.pdf? Am I correct?
Yeah, you can give that, but this is not like a file name, right?
Oh,
It's like the
okay.
content in the file.
Okay. For suppose my file, how can I give the direct file name? Means blob is an like image or whatever it may be. We are
Yeah.
saving the one name. How can I give?
Yeah. So the thing is, let's say that file, right? I mean, so we say the database table, flat files, different types of tables, right?
Yes.
So when you really query, let's say you queried that file, and in your program, when you store, automatically system will hold that file content in the binary format. And that's why, right? How to query, how to get that, still we need to reach that stage to understand those things. Okay. So when we understand how we query and all those kind of things, that point of time, just can bring this point, I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. But this is too early.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So now the next type, arithmetic and logical statements. So here there are different, again, so we use different categories, so operators kind of things. The first one, what I want to explain is about the assignment operator. Okay, so let me list out, and after that we understand about the arithmetic operators, right? So again, under arithmetic, you are doing that arithmetic operation with only one value or multiple values, right? So we have the different classifications, unary operator. So what is that binary operator? I mean, really, if you don't know these things also, it's okay. But if you know, you can confidently deal with many things, right? Ternary operator, different classifications. So I'll explain all those things. So one category, arithmetic assignment operator. So we have the relational operators. We have the logical operators, right? These are like different classifications. So we'll understand once we touch those things. So first, this assignment operator, right? It's nothing but equal to, right? So if you want to, it's like mathematics, right? So if you want to assign the right hand side value into left hand side, we use this assignment operator, right? So if I say integer number 1 is equal to 100, number 2, I don't have anything. I did not assign anything. When I say number 2 is equal to number 1, so what it will do, in num1 memory, whatever the content is there, right? It's having 100 as value. That value it will assign into this num2 into that memory location, right? So that's the thing. So it will be awkward to give something like this, right? Left side, whatever you give should be always the memory location name. Right side, maybe if you give the memory location, in that whatever the content is there, that automatically system will assign to left hand side. Or here if you give some number, that number directly it will assign, right? So like that. So we use equal to for assignment purpose. That's the basic thing. Okay, so just to understand. So nothing more than that. Okay. So the next thing, the arithmetic operators, right? To do the calculations on day to day, we need to apply the logic to add, multiply, divide, subtract, get the division, maybe remainder, and many other things. So we use arithmetic operators. So plus, minus, star for multiplication, slash for division, like that, so on. Okay, but when you are adding, right? So we are adding two numbers or three numbers, or only you have one number. So we have different classifications. So let's say there is a variable. All I want to increase that value by 1, right? In general, right? Let's say we have integer count. Initially it is 0. If you want to increment that value by 1, right? So what we do, count is equal to count plus 1, right? 0 plus 1, 1. Again, if I want to increment again, count equal to count plus 1. So instead of writing like this, so we have the unary operator. How it works? The value, right? The count, that's one of the variable having some value. All we want to increment that value by 1. Okay, so just plus plus. If you give like this, what will happen? System will automatically understand it has to increase that value by 1. Okay, so just understand that one. Okay, so let's see how it works, right? So just I'm copying, go to the developer console and paste here, right? So here system.debug. So I'm printing that count value, right? So what would be the value? What do you
1.
1, right? 0, it is here, it will increment by 1. It will be 1, right? So now execute. One, right? And again, some people again they ask, right? We also have plus plus count. This also increment, sorry, this also increment by 1. So what is the difference? Right? So now if you print here, you see the count as 2, right? 1 here, it will become 2. When you print here, you'll see the value as 2, right? So but what is the difference if you give plus plus first and plus plus
Pre-increment,
last?
increment.
So now here it's like once this is executed, what it returns immediately is the matter. Okay, so now to understand that one, so all we need to do just play with it and understand, right? So the programming is always we need to code and right. So if you don't touch this for 2 months, 3 months, we forget. It's like that. Okay, so now if you see, what is the result you think it will be, right? If you execute, right?
Zero.
0 only, right? Maybe here later again, if you execute, you will see that as 1. So the thing is, when you say count plus plus or whatever plus plus at the end, what it returns is the existing value. The updated value in the next statement, when you refer, it will hold. Okay, so if you want to increment it and immediately return that, you don't want to wait for next line of code to refer. If you give like this, now it will increment by 1 and immediately it returns 1, right? So that's the difference. So, but mostly you see we use this. Okay, that's the way. In the same way, we have minus minus, right? So since I don't want to wait for next line, so here I'm saying minus minus. Okay, now here what would be the value? Maybe it increment, but
Zero.
still it went as 0. But again here it decrement and same value you see. Okay, maybe to avoid that confusion, just here it should be like 0 and it becomes 1, and again that is decremented. You'll see the value as 0, right? 0. I'm removing this one. Execute, right? You'll see as minus 1, right? It's like that. Okay, I mean that's about the unary operator, right? Single value, single operator. It can be plus plus or minus minus. So these things we call as unary operator. In the programs, frequently you see these things using plus plus minus minus. Okay, just to understand that part. So the
Srini,
binary, yeah,
can you explain count plus plus count, the difference between the two?
yeah. The difference is when you try to access the result of this one immediately, right? What I'm trying to say, we have one more variable, let's say result. It is a result, right? So now count plus plus. Okay. So now the thing is 0, it will increment by 1, but whatever it incremented won't be available immediately at this point of time. So when you assign this value to here, still whatever the existing previous value is there, that it will assign. So now if you see the result of that result variable, still that will be 0. But here if I refer that count, right, so you'll see that value as 1. Later statement it will have that updated value. Here you'll see 0, here you see 1, right? Execute. So same thing, if you use this plus plus, right, the effect is immediate. It will increment and immediately return that incremented value instead of the previous value. Now you see that result value as 1, the count value also as 1, right? How exactly you want in your logic. So based on that, you decide which one you want to use. Okay, but mostly we use right, so count plus plus like that. Okay, did you understand?
Yes, Srinu.
Yeah. So any other questions? Yeah, these basics are important. So if you know these basics, yeah, the complex things always complex. All those are like with these basics only we write the big program. Okay, so the binary operator. So when you deal with either 2 numbers or 100 numbers, right? Everything is binary. Binary means, so even though you have, right, let's say we have 10 numbers, number 1 plus number 2 minus number 3 multiplied by number 4 divided by number 5, right? Everything is, even though we have this many, system won't do calculation at a time, right? How it works? So maybe first it will add these two, multiply these two, and from this result and this result it will subtract and divide with this one. But is it really whatever I am explaining that will happen? No, that is based on the operator precedence. Okay, so operator means here plus, minus, star, slash, all those are the operators. So as per the programming language, so for which one should be the more priority? There will be some rules, right? So yeah, we need to see those rules, and is it first it give more priority for star, then this calculation will happen, right? After that, what is the next priority? Is it this? It will divide, right? So like that it will do, and finally we see the result. But I don't know which is having more priority. So still we can manage as a developer, right? Especially even I did not remember which is having more priority. Still, I also need to go and see documentation for that. Okay, so as a developer for sure, so what we need, we can control by using the brackets. Okay, so all I want, so I want to multiply these things. When you see these brackets, for sure, it will multiply those two. And later I want that to divide with this number 5. That will happen. So now that result, it will subtract only from this number 2 or with the combined result. I want to make sure that it will subtract from this 2. Right? So like that we give, so that we control, so how exactly need to do the calculation. Okay, so now if you see this, only it deals with the 2 numbers and 1 operator at a time, even though we have this much big expression. First it will do this, from that result it will divide, and after that it will add these 2. From this result, this entire result, it will subtract, and we'll see some value, right? So that's the binary. Okay, so just understand, yeah, all complex calculations fall under this type. Okay, so the next one is ternary. Any questions on this? The ternary is little tricky. This is day to day we use. Ternary is like, it's like it is also like some conditional kind of, that we have conditional statements similar to that. Yeah, so here why we say ternary, it deals with the 2 operators, right? In all these places, only 1 operator with the 2 values. Ternary. So we give some condition. Question mark means if that condition is true, what you want to execute. Some logic here, right? True, maybe true expression or whatever. I'll say true expression logic, right? False, what you want to do, right? 2 operators dealing with the 3 different values, right? So we call this as ternary operator. So one of the example, let's say we have 2 numbers. It is number 1 is equal to 100, number 2 is equal to 600. So if the number 1 is greater than number 2, right? Question mark, is it true? If it is true, I want to return that number 1. else I want to return that number too, right? Finally, this I want to store in variable integer result, right? I want to print that, right? Let's execute and see what will happen here. Okay, when you have the code zigzag like this, select all the code and press Shift tab so that it will align. Okay, so now execute. So what would be the value? What would be the value? What do you see in the result? Just I'm asking.
200.
Sorry, 200,
So 600.
600, right? Debug only 600 is the value, right? So how it is checking, right? 100 is greater than 600, no, right? No means false. This number 2, what is it? 600, right? The entire expression value becomes 600, that it is assigned to here, that we are printing, right? Now it will return 1000, right? 1000 greater than 600s. It will take this number 1. Now you will see 1000, right? So this is the ternary operator. Okay, so this will be useful. So little bit this is like you need to remember. Okay, anyway, we have that already on top. Okay, so that's about this ternary operator. The next one, I think, since we don't have time, tomorrow, so we deal with that arithmetic assignment and the other operators and continue with the other concepts. So before ending today, so any questions, anyone?
Yes,
Srinu, what's the
yesterday,
shortcut you said to align the code in developer console? Shift and
Tab. You need to first highlight the code and hold Shift tab. Okay,
okay,
so
thank
let's say
you.
it is like this: highlight and the Shift tab. Okay,
Yep, thank you.
yes,
yeah. Any
yesterday
questions?
what you shared. Hello, are you able to hear
Yeah,
my
yeah,
voice?
yeah. Yes, yes.
Yesterday, what you shared the recording session, I am not able to. Uh, that one video enable. This video is a private. It is showing that message.
Uh,
Actually, me too, Srinu.
oh, you are seeing the private video message?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Let me, I think,
We have to open with our mail ID given for registration starting.
yeah. For this, it should be like public. Okay, so I think by mistake I made it as private.
Animated private.
Yeah. So now, please check now. Okay. So you see as you should see without showing as private. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that is that. So any questions before ending today? No questions. Okay. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.